Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Welcome, wonderful listeners. Today on the Heart-Led Business Show, we have a veritable visionary in the realm of resilience and revival, the one and only Martin Pytela. As the CEO of Exsula Foods and Life Enthusiast, Martin's journey started with computer chips, but after a personal health mishap, he pivoted to a path of purpose. He's dedicated his life to helping others reclaim their vitality with natural solutions that honor each individual's unique biology. Buckle up as we go into the heart of health and entrepreneurship with our very special guest, Martin. Martin, welcome to the show.
It's a delight, really. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to dive into your story, especially the transition that you made as well. But the first question I always like to ask is, what is your definition of a heart-led business?
Yeah, purpose rather than a spreadsheet. Do it because you want to, not because you're hungry for money.
Yes. That's so critical. And although I love spreadsheets.
And
yeah,
I use them too.
I had a friend that once told me that his boss was just so focused on spreadsheets that there was no human interaction whatsoever, and the business just wasn't going well. And you have to have a good balance between the two, I'm sure.
Yeah, actually, let me just frame in this piece. The company that I'm running now represents about 60 suppliers, things to the public. And I focus on having the suppliers who are still running the companies, as opposed to a publicly traded, anonymous, soulless, big business owned something. And it's really interesting, especially in the health space that I'm in, that the product quality is remarkably different from companies that are still led by the owner, founder, somebody from that. Once it passes on, it just becomes an anonymous, of soul, devoid of care kind of business. So we are not just heart-led, but we're representing heart-led products.
Oh, that's great. But why do you think that is, in terms of if a founder sells out to big pharma or somebody else, like why? I think we can intelligently figure that out.
You, when somebody, a bigger business, buys a smaller business, they're buying it either to acquire the customers or to acquire the technology. And so they have a brand that goes with it, and then they start figuring out how they can squeeze more money out of it. And you can squeeze money more out of it by fiddling with either the process, how it's made, or the inputs, what goes into it.
Yeah.
And everything can be made cheaper.
Sure. But if the quality isn't the same, why do that?
Because you don't care. The spreadsheet, you want the bottom line. You don't care about what it does.
Yeah. You would think that big business would care, because if it's not effective, people wouldn't continue to buy it.
Yeah, they don't care.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your business and why it is heart-led.
I somehow stumbled into the superfood business at the back end of my journey from hellish health problems, which started by getting mercury toxicity in a dentist's office. It's interesting. The most toxic things that you can have in your body. Ask Bobby Kennedy about mercury. And the dentist gave me a choice. You can have the silver fillings or the white fillings. I was ignorant, innocent, 25-year-old. And I said, what's the difference? And he said, the silver ones will last twice as long and will not cost you extra. I said, is there any other difference? They said, no, it's the same. Hell no, it's not the same. I ended up, because of my genetics, I'm a poor methylator, I ended up becoming very toxic. and my health declined dramatically. Like I had back problems and I had allergies and I had all kinds of decline, lots and lots of problems. And I went to the mainstream people, first the orthopedic surgeon because I was having structural issues. I went to chiropractors, naturopaths, and then every sort of an esoteric thing. I could go for about 3 minutes listing all the things I tried. And at the end, it was, come on, Martin, you're a systems analyst. Analyze this. And the analysis said all of them in the health field are focusing on manipulating symptoms without ever asking, what is the cause of this?
Right.
They couldn't care less. So
Hmm.
when I analyzed it using business analytics, where in business, I was at that point, I took a degree in computer science and business administration, and I spent 20 years in information technology. And at that point, I was actually doing management consulting, having matured. You know how a guy goes through junior to less junior to management and so on, right? So I was a first sales guy, then a manager, then a blah, 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 right? So at that stage of my career, I was now an independent consultant helping larger companies do their thing.
Hmm.
And anyway, having analyzed the situation, I finally came to the conclusion I could not let them try and help me because they never will.
Oh, that's interesting. That's fascinating too, that even going to naturopaths who typically look for the root cause, at least the ones that I worked with, that's the whole thing, is looking for the root cause and the person as a whole, that the people that you saw didn't see that or test for it.
Today it's different. This was 1980s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. They should know better. But the guys, I saw maybe 3 or 4 different ones. And they were all just, you have allergies? Well, let's do a Vega test. Let's find out what you're allergic to. Let's eliminate that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We
But
did
they
not ask, why are you allergic?
didn't, or they didn't try the mercury to see if you were allergic to that. Right.
Yeah, that's the tweak, right? It changes everything in your body. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. It looks
Yeah.
like sheep, but it's not.
No.
It looks innocent. To the body, it looks like another mineral, but it's super toxic.
Yeah. Okay.
So you started with the heart part.
Yeah.
Well, so there I was, finally learning about what the cause of my problems were. So then I undid my problems, having figured out what they were. And then I think it was the year 2001. I said, well, I'll be my own customer. I've been building websites for others.
Mm.
And so I thought, well, let me build a website for me and let's just see what happens.
Okay.
And Life Enthusiast was born. So anyway, at that point, I have already met the Exsula Superfoods, which were being made for a similar reason. The guy who started that business was praying to his creator to either give him a solution or help him die.
Mm.
He was beset
Wow.
by allergies so bad that he wanted to just scratch his eyes out.
Mm.
He was just suicidally awful, right?
Wow, that's horrible.
He was toxic with aluminum. This guy worked in agriculture, barefoot, walking through moist fields, or maybe not barefoot, maybe in sandals, but definitely without much protection, walking through fields that they had freshly doctored up with whatever spray they would put on it. His job, because he was strapping, strong young lad, was to move aluminum pipe, the irrigation pipe. And he would come home at the end of the day, he said, shiny with aluminum, shiny hands, shiny arms, shiny belly, because as you apply friction to the aluminum, it leaves something behind. So anyway, he was toxic with aluminum and a few other things, and he was in trouble for his own other reasons. And he had an inventor's dream. You know how that happens. You
Yeah.
pray for something hard enough, and I don't know, call it God if you want. It will give you a gift. It will have what you have to do. So this guy invented the superfood category and built it, and it helped him. So he started helping others.
Mm.
And in the meantime, on a separate track, I built the business of helping others from toxicity using other things. Then the two paths crossed, and I have been supporting that business ever since because he was a horrendous businessman,
Oh no.
and he needed to be supported. And I loved the product so much that I just said, well, I won't let it die. I remember meeting in 2007 my wife and an accountant, and they're both telling me, you're an idiot, walk away from this. There's just absolutely no sense for you to keep putting money here. We were losing money back between 2003 and 2007, and I stayed with it. The fellow died during the COVID years, 2020. I
Mm.
ended up with the business. It never made money.
Wow. And does it make money now?
Well, it has become embedded into my online Life Enthusiast business.
Ah, good.
And so maybe it's an advertising expense to me, in the
Okay.
sense that I make expensive foods that I make very little money on, but I compensate for it with all the other profits that we make on the other brands. Overall, we'll still profitable, although not every year.
Okay. So the foods brand, you've brought that into Life Enthusiast. So tell me a little bit about Life Enthusiast and what the mission
Right.
is there.
Well, so the story is, once you figure out that the industrial toxicity will cause you untold health problems, happened to me. So I thought, well, there must be millions of people like me. And sure enough, there are. You have a metabolic disease, chronic inflammatory degenerative disease, which we call aging, is actually a disease of becoming more toxic and less able to get rid of things. And as we pollute within, our functional efficiency goes downhill. If I were able to maintain my functional efficiency the way I was when I was 24, I would stay in the condition of a 24-year-old.
Mm, okay. That makes sense.
So I'm now trying to bring back as much of that as possible.
Okay.
And so the Life Enthusiast then talks to people about aging things, and they are either the cardiovascular or the metabolic, as in diabetes, obesity, or cancer is on that picture, chronic inflammatory like arthritis, or 1,000 different names for different illnesses.
Yeah.
Hurt. You're stiff on rising, your functional efficiency goes downhill, you don't sleep as well, blah, blah, blah. 1,000 different ways how your body starts breaking down.
Mm,
All of that related to what I can help you with.
okay. And so you integrate the foods into helping the people kind of overcome some of
Yeah.
those chronic disease.
What's
What's
the
the other
what?
piece that you offer? The other part? Is
So
it more?
in the process of trying to understand how this works, analytical brain, I came up with toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma as major inputs or major pillars upon which this chronic disease will stand. So
Yep.
toxicity means stuff that's in your body that shouldn't be getting in. You need to get rid of it and stop it from coming. Malnutrition is you're not getting stuff that you should be getting from your inputs. So you need to find what that is. That's where that food business fills the gap. It actually puts in quality what you normally are not getting from the food producers that are producing food like substances that are pretend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's stagnation, which relates mainly to movement, too much sitting, the sedentary society. I heard
Yep.
Gary Brecka come up with aging is the result of relentless pursuit of comfort, right?
Hey,
So the less you
that's
exercise, the lazier you become, the more you atrophy because what you don't use, lose.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. I've seen that in when I was in the personal fitness business. I saw a lot of my clients that they were 40 years old, maybe, but they were looking 50, 60 years old. And through the
Yeah.
course of working out, losing the weight, getting that mobility back, you could just
Mhm.
see the age just drop off of them and get back to where they kind of look their age instead of looking
Yeah.
10 years old. That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I
exercise
had
and
a
nutrition will do.
Indeed. I went for a haircut, and the gal said, "Okay, here's how much." And I said, "Am I not getting the senior rate?" And she said, "You don't look senior." So I pulled out my driver's license. I said, "See, 72 years old now."
Oh my gosh.
And
I don't believe
so
it.
anyway,
You're
yeah,
not.
there it was.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So tell me about the food products, and then we can go into the Life Enthusiast. But how are you, and what are you figuring out that people need in producing for them?
Okay, industrial food production, as the
Yeah.
modern food agriculture would have it, is depleting the soils. So they're using fertilizers. So they will put in only three ingredients: NPK, that would be nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. They will make you strong, good looking, fast produced foods. But because you push it, there's not enough time to actually extract micronutrients that should be coming out of the soil because it grows quick. Anyway, so the nutrient density is down by about 85 to 90% from 150 years ago.
Wow.
No joke. If you want to have the nutrients of 1 pound of broccoli that your great grandmother had from her garden, you have to eat 10 pounds of it now.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
that's, yeah,
And
food
they
destruction.
do, right? Like I remember the tomatoes that we would get out of our own garden taste so much different than the tomatoes from the grocery store.
The other thing, they select for visual appeal, for shelf life, and for transport resilience, right?
Yep.
So they select for completely different criteria than you would: flavor, taste, nutrient value, and that's not important.
Yeah, it's so crazy too that we're so concentrated on the visual aspect of it rather than the
Yeah.
actual inside of it.
Yeah, we shop by looking instead of
Yep.
tasting, especially in the grocery stores. They don't recommend that you taste everything that's on the shelf, right?
Unless you go to Costco, then you have all the tasting stands up.
Yes.
What are the foods that you're creating or you're buying and then reselling? What are those
Right.
foods?
Okay, so the main point is to compensate for the paucity of nutrient value in the groceries that you're buying.
Yep.
So we construct these concentrated foods, and they
Mm,
have high mineralization, high nutrient value, high pigmentation, lots of antioxidants, all of the important things. Like there are important minerals, vitamins, amino acids, they have to be in there. Those are the word essential is
yep.
associated with you have to acquire them because you don't get them any other way. They must be in your food or else you are running into problem. Like
Yep.
if you don't have enough vitamin B1, you'll end up with beriberi and you'll be whatever, trouble and so on.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
20 different ways how you'll break down. There are, I don't remember the exact number, 18 nutrients, 5 minerals, 9 amino acids, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So all of that is in the base of the product, plus the rainbow of pigments. You need to have all the yellows, browns, blues, greens, and so on. Pizza is too monochromatic. We
Red and red.
put everything into that so that couple of teaspoons of that powder mixed with some liquid, fruit juice, smoothie will give you that which you need to actually thrive physically.
Okay. So is it just one product that you're producing then? Or is there multiple
There are
lines?
many. We have about 30 different ones, and that
Oh,
has to
wow.
do with how you break down. Some people are needing to be calmed down because they're overly stimulated already.
Yeah.
Others need to be brought up because they're just a little too slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are different nutrients and different combinations that are either stimulating or sedating. And then we have specialized ones that go with cardiovascular problem, liver problem, cancer problem, and so on. All these different problems. When you start breaking down, you need extra help in that department. So we have to address nutritionally that. the specific detail.
Okay, cool. So then the Life Enthusiast side, is that where the programming comes in terms of
Yeah.
letting people know what they need to be doing?
Yeah, integrated. I have become certified in metabolic typing back in 2012, which understands how genetics and nutrition interact. So you have some people that need to be eating the hunter diet, some who are more the farmer, some that are more coastal, some that are more tropical, and so on. In America, we have this wild thing where your Norwegian grandfather is mating with your Cherokee grandmother. The influences, the genetic influences are varied. But in the end, we can ask you about 120 questions and tell you exactly what we know: how you gain weight, how you lose weight, how you become alkaline or acidic, which leads to what drives toward depression or what drives toward anxiety. And so
Mm,
if you drive toward the extreme, you get more extreme problems. We have ways to bring you closer to the middle. So
okay.
we'll control your general functioning, all of the ways you break down, whether it's the blood pressure or I already named all of the ways how you break down. So
Yeah.
we can correct that with nutrition by matching you to what you need. By first removing the blocking factors, the toxins, supplying the missing factors, mostly nutrients, by improving movement, undoing stagnation, and dealing with traumatic events, because your emotional health is usually the trigger that drives you toward self-destructive behaviors.
Yeah. 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 Somebody else had said that kind of genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Yeah, that's the word is epigenetics. That's what they use in the doctor field, and it is exactly that. It's the pulling of the trigger is done. Are you digging your grave with your fork?
And by now they're like machine guns or a bazooka or a cannon in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of,
it's highly weaponized. Food porn. What they've done now is when you put it in your mouth, it's creating false impressions. It's a lie. They
yeah.
give you stuff that is instantly addictive through the mouthfeel, through the combination of sweet, sour, bitter, greasy, whatever. They have figured it out. Just maximum.
Yeah. The science behind food processing is fascinating, but just is not doing us any favors at all.
I have experienced it myself. If you leave me with a bag of Doritos, I will find
Oh,
some way, some self talk that will leave me eating all of them.
mhm.
Everyone to the bottom. The only solution I have is never leave me alone with a bag of Doritos.
Yeah, exactly. Get it out of the house for sure.
Yeah, don't bring it in.
So, how do you balance the food business? Obviously, is not making money, and the other is supporting it. So, how do you balance that in terms of being a heart led business and still needing to make a profit? Like you alluded earlier that you're using it as an advertising expense, which is
Yeah.
it's good self talk. But like, how do you approach making a profit and still leading with purpose?
Well, at the end of the month, I hope that I have some money left, as opposed to at the end of the money, I don't have some days left.
Right.
There are months when I'm just short. It's a I don't know. It's hard to tell when you do it because you want to, as opposed to because it's making you rich. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. I'm at it. I get up joyful. I get up wanting to do more of this. It's fun, it's rewarding. The thousands of letters that I have from people who tell me, thank you for helping me with my life is, I don't know, it's rewarding in its own
That
way.
is true. Yeah. I think for me, those letters are definitely the most rewarding more than the paycheck. So I totally understand like where you are with that. But I tell you what, if that was going on for more than a couple of years, I'd be like, oh, so stressed out. I'd need some of those superfoods to bring me back down, I think.
Yeah, I know how to manage my physiology.
Yeah.
Right? I'm well educated and I'm well versed with it. I can manage
Mhm.
my physiology quite skillfully. My emotional health is fine.
Yeah.
If I'm facing a difficult situation, and I have,
Yeah.
I pray for a different outcome, and for some reason they deliver.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
I always get not what I necessarily want, but I do get what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Awesome. Oh, Martin, this has been just fascinating, kind of a different look that we normally have at heart-led businesses, but it's fascinating to get a different perspective in terms of the business side and how to justify having a heart-led business. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. But how can people find out more about the products and help you get more profitable?
Thank you. Yes, we only need a couple thousand more customers. We'll be fine. The business is called Life Enthusiast. The website is life-enthusiast.com. There's a YouTube channel, Life and Co, LIFENTCO. There's a Telegram channel, Life and Co. There's a channel on Rumble, and we are on Facebook and X and whatever places.
Okay.
But the website is where you should land, life-enthusiast.com, and call us. We have health coaches. We have answers. We treat everyone differently. In, we ask you questions about your problems. We understand your individuality and put it together. We don't treat your numbers. We treat your issues, your life.
Yeah. Well, one of the doctors I work with, he says, one size fails all.
Excellent put.
Again, Martin, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your story. I know our listeners really appreciate the time that you spent with us. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into the show today. I really appreciate it. I know Martin appreciates it as well. So please make sure that you're checking out everything that he is doing at life-enthusiast.com. We're going to link all that up into the show notes, so it makes it really easy to find that. Just go down into the show notes, click those links, and help support a business that needs your support, but you need that business as well. You need those nutrients. And then if you could do me a favor and give the show a rating and review, I would really appreciate that. And then share it with a friend who could use some of the advice shared on today's show. Until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.